What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's video. I have a special guest here, what everyone on Instagram seems to call their player 2. This is my player 2, my lovely wife, which you guys see way too much stuff about, but she's joining me here today because she had a strong soul and was able to play The Last of Us Part 2. I don't have that soul, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute because she's way stronger than me in that aspect. So the way this is going to work is there's probably going to be lots of edits because we've never done this together before. This is her first time ever doing this, right? Except for...
No, I've never filmed a YouTube video.
Okay, yeah, so this is her first time ever doing this. So I'm going to read questions that I wrote on my phone, and then we're just going to have a conversation about it together. So, also, there's going to be a spoiler-free section first, and then I will say, okay, this is like where it's ending. I'll put a timestamp somewhere in the video so you guys can not get spoiled. And I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're going to go over first, so that if that's anything that you consider a spoiler from the beginning, you can just not watch this video, because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. So the spoiler-free section is going to cover her rating of the game, if there are similar games out there like this game, what she thought about the atmosphere, if she feels like they told a good story and how so, how were the gameplay mechanics, how was the game difficult, both mechanically and emotionally, because that's a big topic right now, and who should play this game and who shouldn't play this game. So that's what we're going to do. So if you consider any of that spoilers, just don't watch this video, because there's really no way around those things. So, and also, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a jacket in the middle of summer and sweating to death, it's because I have poison ivy really bad and nobody needs to see that. So, all right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, question number 1. What would you rate this game out of 10?
That's a really difficult question because the game is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
In my opinion, of course, there's a lot of review bombing happening.
And we'll talk about that in the spoiler section.
Yeah. But for me, I would probably rate it like a 9.5. I mean, it's a pretty solid game.
Yeah, and we were talking about this last night because we kind of talk about video games all the time. It's big part of our relationship, and I asked her if it was the best game she'd ever played. What do you think about that?
I mean, that's, again, kind of incredibly subjective. It's probably the best put together game I've ever played. Like it's kind of seamless, just with with loading screens and the environment and dialogue and all of those things. It's just it's so it really kind of, this game's going to precede a bunch of other games that are going to come out with similar kind of.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
It's you can't find another game that's like it. So it's hard to compare because I mean, like, of course I love From Software with my whole heart. So it's like the Dark Souls series is something I could play over and over and over again, whereas this game it definitely has some replayability to it, but it's it's a bit, and it's kind of different.
Yeah. And so I asked her, because she told me 9.5 last night, I said, well, then what makes a game a 10? And you said, do you remember what you said?
Well, yeah. It reminds me of a specific English professor I had.
What?
Like everything can improve.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. So, and
9.5 for you.
I really appreciate her mindset on that, because if you guys have watched any of my other reviews, I have struggled to give anything not a 10. But that's because I just love video games so much. And so a little bit of backstory about her. She's been playing like story games longer than I have. As you guys know, I was addicted, and I mean that kind of in a semi-literal sense. Like, I had a real problem with
you turned into a monster.
Yeah, with Overwatch. And so I'm just now joining this this trend.
Yeah, come to the light.
Yes, and I uninstalled Overwatch yesterday, so I'm really proud of that. So she says it's a 9.5, and there isn't really a game that's a 10 for her. So maybe for those of you out there that are like me, she's saying the game's a 10. Okay. Right? That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. Is there a similar game out there? If not, what makes this one so different?
I mean, I assume that probably other Naughty Dog...
Uncharted.
Yeah, I mean, I've not played Uncharted, but I assume that I saw some game mechanics of it, and you can definitely tell that they're influenced in a certain direction with how they have gameplay and environment and like really natural conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, last night, I spent an hour trying to find another game that was, I mean, the only other game that I can think of that has a story that is that complex with characters that actually develop and that you feel attached to would be like Wolfenstein, I would say. Like,
that's a good point.
The New Colossus, The New Order. Those games, I felt similarly attached to the protagonist. And I really cared about what happened to him and his family and the supporting characters. All of them were just, there wasn't a supporting character that even evil ones that were not just intriguing.
That's true.
Yeah, I actually think that game's, that series is highly underrated.
I agree. And so I think what you're saying is that there are similar games, but there's nothing quite like it.
No, I mean, not really. Because the game really is equal parts mechanics and equal parts
atmosphere.
Well, not
Story.
atmosphere.
That's okay.
I'm just trying to think of what it's called. I should know, but my brain's dead right now. It's equal parts gameplay mechanics with
Story development?
Yeah, story development. But like what is it called when they go to like a scene?
Cutscenes?
Yes, very simple word.
Yeah,
it's a very simple word. My brain
All
works
right.
too much. But yeah.
So you said it's equal parts gameplay
mechanics.
and gameplay mechanics
yeah.
and storytelling through cutscenes.
Right. I mean, it is. And
Yeah.
of course the story happens too. Like they did a really neat thing with well, I'll save that for the next section. But there's some really neat things that they do that incorporate both at the same time. But it
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you feel like you answered that question?
Yeah.
Okay, next. What did you think about the atmosphere? And some of these things you have already touched on, but if you just want to speak to like what it was like to be a character, because we're not going to list characters right now for specific reasons, but to be any playable character in the game, what was it like? Like, did you feel like you were in the game? Could you be immersed when you looked around? Did you feel that it was okay? You get where I'm going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you're like just kind of the whole feel. Is that what you mean? Like
Yeah,
the
like,
feel of the game?
Yeah.
For the most part, it's very engrossing. There were a couple scenes that I was like, okay, I don't understand why this is here. Which I kind of feel like every video game that you play is going to have an aspect of that within its contents. But most of the time, yeah. I mean, because like when you go in buildings that have either been like boarded up or underground, I mean, it's frightening. And Naughty Dog does a really good job. There's a few jump scares.
Oh, yeah.
But most of the time, like there was an article I read that put it really well, that you're not always going to run into an infected or an enemy, but the possibility is always there.
Yeah.
So they do a good job with just having nothing there and it being creepy. But on the other aspect of it, there's a lot of moments where they give you time to breathe because the story is so tense that you can explore. You can spend hours exploring subjectively, I suppose, but you can spend a quite a bit of time just kind of exploring the areas, and there's times where it's just so lighthearted moments, and so I think it does well with. I mean, as the game progresses, the atmosphere changes
As it should.
Yeah. But at the beginning and kind of the middle, it's definitely got moments where you just take a second to kind of appreciate what's on screen, and they give you time to explore without being attacked and things like that. So it's pretty cool.
I think that's part of like where video games are going nowadays that we didn't really have before, like those moments where you are a character and you can just stand in there and like take a deep breath and look around you and like almost feel like you are that character. And what that takes is obviously excellent graphics, but also like in a really well done atmosphere, down to like, so just to be clear, I didn't play this game. However, I do sit over in a corner and I can see her screen when she's playing. And so I did peek in a lot. So I'm not going in completely blind to this, but there would be times where she would be like, hey, look at this. There's just like, I don't know, something like a magazine placed here, or like, look at this view from standing in this tall grass. And well,
and I mean, like when you juxtapose it with a game like Final Fantasy VII, the remake, it's like
Yeah.
my one complaint about that game, and I think it was the main complaint. I think one of the main complaints about Final Fantasy VII for people who didn't play the original was that they had these beautiful worlds, like a beautiful world, a beautiful map design and things like that, but it felt empty because there wasn't a ton of things to explore. So I mean, there was not a huge incentive of like going into a room or anything. Now it is quite linear, Final Fantasy VII to a certain extent, but exploring was not. I mean, it was lacking that bit within that game. Whereas this game, you could. Even though you're finding the same type of like crafting items and stuff like that, like you might find a letter to someone who's writing to like their child, or they implemented safes and like kind of more puzzly aspects too, which
that wasn't in the first one,
right? Yeah, no, it wasn't.
So that's an addition from the first game to the second game.
Yeah,
it was
I just completely missed it both playthroughs.
No way, you played that game twice. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and they, you might find like a note that has like a combination and like a trailer, and then you have to go find, and those things are kind of neat. But like when you're in there though, they have like, I mean, you're like in the bottom of a bank, and they have a whiteboard with a bunch of things written on it that you can read, and it's really cool. I mean,
yeah, I find those things so cool.
Yeah, and they're all different. It's not like you don't walk into a library and it's like red, green, blue book, red, green, blue book.
Right, yeah. There would be times where she'd be like, "Hey, look at this," and the only thing I would be able to say is, "This is why I love video games." So I think the team at Naughty Dog like nailed that.
Yeah,
that's my opinion from someone who didn't even play the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, because I have horrible spatial recognition, so like if I got lost or turned around or I kept examining the same places, it's because I'm kind of directionally dumb. But otherwise, it wasn't because everything looked the same.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the next question was, how are the gameplay mechanics? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit. If you just want to touch on that really quick, like, did you?
Nothing was all that frustrating for me. I mean, it took me a second to kind of get used to the dodge.
What about so that's something that that's new to Last of Us 2, right?
Mm-hmm, jumping and dodging, yeah.
So those are two new mechanics that weren't in The Last of Us Part 1 that are in The Last of Us Part 2.
Right.
Is there any other gameplay changes as far as mechanics and like... Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm not sure. Let me think for a second. I know jumping and...
So those are the two that really stand out, at least.
Yeah, dodging.
Okay.
I mean, and also I think it has a there's slightly more focus on melee.
There's more...
Like slightly, just because... I think that there are times that you're fighting a lot more than the first one against like and like to me melee weapons become more important at certain parts of the game.
Okay.
And they also like I'll save that for the next section too.
Sounds like there was more stealth in this one. Was there? Am I incorrect? Or is it like the same amount of stealth?
I mean, yeah, it's the same amount. Okay. I guess it would be the same amount. The problem with this one, and I don't feel like this is... I mean, we all know there's dogs in it. I mean, it was really difficult to not have to kill people, no matter how...
stealthy.
No matter how stealthy, you were going to run into someone somewhere, and you were going to have to kill them to proceed or run.
Okay. I think you did that. All right, so now, how difficult is the game first mechanically, then emotionally?
Difficult?
Yeah, so how difficult?
So I have an interesting take on this because a lot of people feel like the controls are clunky somewhat.
Oh.
Now, I think that a lot of people who feel that way, feel that way because it's meant to be that. I mean, there's a certain feeling of just kind of being like an everyday person trying to master like weaponry and things like that. But I actually felt like it was very smooth. I had no complaints about switching between weapons, shooting, crafting.
So mechanics were pretty good.
Yeah, I just had to get used to some of the new stuff, but otherwise, I thought it was very smooth. Now, when you say difficult emotionally,
yeah. And this is spoiler-free section, so maybe just a little PSA.
There's a few highs to several lows.
That's well put.
Yeah. No.
A few highs to several lows. Okay. So with that, who should play this game?
Well, I think anybody that likes stories. I mean, the thing is like, if you're susceptible, like I love realistic imagery. I like
Yeah.
realistic stories, and I ruminate over them often. And I'll be thinking about this game probably for on and off for the rest of my life.
You will.
But that being said, I think that people who are incredibly sensitive to human suffering,
Like me.
yeah, might be better just to watch someone else play the game or like read a synopsis of it, because I mean, I think that part of the review bombing now, of course, I definitely feel like there is it's obvious that part of the review bombing is coming from a sexist and a homophobic place.
Yeah.
Now, some of it's not. Some of it's just, some people are just angry because they wanted a specific type of story and they didn't get it. And I get that 100%. If somebody rates this game a 5 or a 6 because it emotionally devastated them,
Yeah.
I completely understand that. I really do. Or you know, they wanted to see a specific relationship develop further or something like that. I can understand why they wouldn't like this game.
Well, that kind of goes back to why I haven't played the game.
Well, yeah, and you shouldn't.
It would be like, I think some of those 5 or 6 star or ratings are like if I were to rate this game, because from what I know,
Well, especially with how you feel the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from what I know of, I know the entire story, and again, this is spoiler free, but if we're getting into spoiler territory for you, I understand. There will be a clear divide between sections, but from what I know of the story, it's not personally a journey that I want to emotionally take. But for someone like you, it's probably the best emotional journey that you could take.
Yeah, I mean, and because they did a great job kind of directing you to what they're wanting you to experience within the game. I personally believe that. Now, I know that people play video games to escape. I'm a fairly cerebral person who really enjoys like realistic things. So like the violence for me wasn't too, I mean, there were points where I was just like, I don't want to do this, as I think you're supposed to feel. I think you're supposed to feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, they pretty much outright said that that's how you're supposed to feel. But like the violence for me wasn't anywhere near what I'm seeing some of the comments. But being a huge fan of horror and
and I'm not,
and heavy emotional, like emotionally like devastating art, you know, it didn't phase me the way that it probably is phasing others.
Like me. So I think that's what like we're trying to get across is like we are very different people in that regard. And if you're someone who's attracted to like really thought-provoking, emotional, difficult journeys, then I think this is the game for you. And horror, that's another aspect too, because I don't really like. I play Resident Evil, but I struggle.
Yeah.
So if you like,
well, but Resident Evil is probably like horror-wise is probably like worse.
Yeah,
it's
maybe like scary movie like, but as far as like real life, like what could be behind you kind of horror.
Well, I mean, it's a very things like this, pieces of art like this. We're in a society that really oversaturates the same thing over and over again. Like, I mean, look at the sports games like that get released every single year, or you know, platformers and things like that. I think it's really neat what developers are starting to do, because they're kind of expanding, especially like if we look at Nintendo and a lot of the indie games now, they might not be the best graphically if you don't like 18 or if you don't like those type of graphics and things like that, but they have compelling moving pieces beneath them, and I think that that's where AAA gaming is trying to also go. And the thing is that we're so oversaturated. I mean, you see it in like the music scene with like pop music and like country music that's popular all sounding the same, and
oh, that's a good point.
You know, movies that are just constantly releasing sequels that are just like the ones that came before. A lot of creativity has really died out. You know, besides maybe if you know, people are heavy like avid readers perhaps, or if they specifically go look for independent films or things like that, that you're not going to find a lot of media material that really provokes people into thinking, and people don't like to be uncomfortable, and this game will make you uncomfortable. It just will. I mean,
absolutely.
it's gonna it's supposed to. I mean, that, you know, and I think that we have moved from entertainment being maybe entertainment's not the right word. We've moved from media kind of teaching lessons or speaking about our society as a whole at the
To what sells.
to like things, and I get it, people want to escape. Like, we're living in a hellhole right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, and you know, the understanding that there are men and women of color who are being murdered in the streets, and we have, you know, the pandemic going on, and just the political upheaval. And I mean, this game is just a mirror to that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
A lot of people want to complain about the violence, but it's like, you know, America has always been okay with violence. I mean, movies don't get to be rated R for the most part because they're violent. They get rated R because they're sexual.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we have glorified violence, I mean, within this country. So it's like, I think that, I mean, that was the whole point, is like, let's try to undesensitize people for a moment, and because this is what's happening in the world right now.
It's like, if you watch What's Good Games, then you know Christine Steimer. If you don't watch Good Games, then you should leave this video right now and go find What's Good Games, because they're absolutely phenomenal. But it's like what Steimer said. She said, this game is not a game about the fungus. It's not a game about a pandemic.
No.
It's a game about humanity.
Yeah.
And I think she nailed it.
Well, all those things are in the backdrop. Like, they're just there. They're just part of the
Yes.
world. Like, that's the
Some
thing.
of the
That's,
stress.
because, well, and I mean, it's not like Resident Evil, where,
Yeah.
like the first one, where you're like, what's going on in this mansion?
That's
and,
a game to escape to.
Yeah, or, you know, the second one where it's like, what's happening in this crazy town? Like,
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, this has happened, this takes place, I think, 25 years after, it's 25 years after the outbreak, so it's just normal. It's just,
Life.
it's normal.
Yeah.
So none of it's like shocking. Like, there's
Yeah.
like one part, but we'll get to that later, that kind of invoked something a little bit different in that area. But like, for the most part, I mean, the world that these people live in Ellie
She doesn't know any
and
different.
Dina, like, and Jesse and these characters, that's what they were raised with. So and that's what it is. It's just backdrop. It's not like screaming, oh my God, there's a zombie chasing me. It's just
Yeah.
like, infected.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I have better things to do with my time.
Right. And that goes back to that immersion and atmosphere. All right, well, I think, do you have anything else you think you should say to people who haven't played the game?
I play it.
Play
I
it.
mean, play it. I mean,
Just
like,
play
I, you know, as someone who does sometimes listen to reviews, in this case, I would not. I mean, people are upset, and that, as like, going back to what I was talking about in regards to like entertainment really kind of shifting from like trying to really discuss culture to, you know, just complete escape from reality. Like, this is an important piece of work that I really think kind of comments on how violent our society is, but also thinking is not bad.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, if you're at this video for the spoiler section, we're going to talk about the review bombing, and I just want to put a pen in here to say, I don't know if we're going to do this today. I guess it depends on how we feel after filming this, but we have been talking a lot, and coming really soon is going to be a video about why representation matters in video games. This game is part of the reason why representation matters in video games.
Yeah.
And so stay tuned for that, because that's not going to be a structured thing. We actually have no idea really what we're going to talk about, because what we want it to be is like an authentic communication between two people who are part of the LGBTQ community and who are avid gamers. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Depends on when we get to that. But anyway, are you ready to move on to the spoiler section?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You ready to do a spoiler section?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back. I took a short break. She didn't really take a break. But we're going to do the spoiler section now. So if you haven't played this game and you don't want spoilers, then see you next time. Tune in for our representation video.
Peace.
Or, yeah, peace. Or any of my other stuff. Hopefully we'll do more videos together.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, next, our 1-year anniversary is on Monday. Monday? Yeah, June 29th. So, all right.
know.
Anyway, on to the next point. Spoiler section. Okay. So we're just going to dive right in. We're not going to cut any corners because this game sure doesn't. How'd you feel when Joel died?
Honestly, exactly how the developers wanted me to feel. I didn't feel anything when he first died because I think it was a bit surreal, first of all. I mean, I love Joel. I love Joel and Ellie's relationship because I'm incredibly close with my father, and I thought it was a really nice kind of pairing within the video game world.
And not one we see often.
Right. Well, I mean, there is kind of a trope sometimes where you have like the older father figure with like the child, and you know they learn, but like in this case, you know, I really thought they both learned from each other fairly well. And
sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was gonna say, so you mentioned the developers, and it seems like you said that you read like some research that or whatever articles.
Like, yeah. I mean,
Neil wanted you to feel nothing.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to feel anything when you see it, and I think that is a very, I mean, coming from as someone who has seen death, you know, that is kind of initially how it feels. It's very, it's dreamlike, it's surreal. There's a lot of denial. It's kind of hard to even process. Because we don't, I mean, unless people have experienced death, it's really, really, really difficult to understand the complete separation from an individual that you used to be around all the time.
So it takes a good story and a good development team to be able to make you feel those real life feelings.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, when he dies, it's just like you don't, I mean, even Ellie, like, it just kind of moves on to like, okay, we're gonna go hunt this individual down with, you know, and their friends, and we're gonna get revenge. But like, she's still popping jokes. She's still like
at the beginning, right?
Yeah, like kind of still somewhat you know, kid-like, teenager-like. It hasn't set in for her, but as she goes further and her mental illness starts to develop and things like that, you kind of see the sickness coming out.
Yeah.
But when I initially, it's so close to the beginning of the game that it's hard to like even process. And then as you move on and they add cut scenes with Ellie kind of having more interactions with Joel, and you kind of see some in-between things from the last game to this game, then okay, you start feeling it, like, you know, it starts hurting, you know, because you're beginning to feel her pain.
They did a really good job from what I could see of like putting you back in the past and showing more about the relationship. I know people complained because they wanted this to be a story about Joel.
Right.
Well, and that's where they kind of got some of their story about Joel.
I mean, I think that they wanted it to be another Last of Us 1. I think they wanted Joel and Ellie to go on another adventure, and I understand that, but it's not, I mean...
It's not the kind of game.
Yeah, and it's not the type of world they lived in. And
no.
Perhaps it could have been done better. I don't know. I was fine with the way it happened. In the sense of like it didn't feel like, some people felt like it was contrived or almost demeaning to a certain extent of Joel's role in the game. To me, it showed, I mean, the first 10 minutes of the first one, you watch a child get shot and die.
That's
like,
a good
they're
point,
not
yeah.
gonna, they're not, I mean, this studio's not pulling punches. Like, anybody could go at any time. I mean, one of my favorite characters in the first one dies, you know, in the first kind of third of the game.
Yeah.
You realize that you're in a world where everything is very finite, that you could lose your life at any moment, whether you're a child or you're an elderly individual. Like, it, you know, life can be ended so swiftly.
And they do a good job of showing that, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at first I was a little, I mean, also I was a little angry because the person that kills Joel, he saved like 5 minutes beforehand, and then she hears his name and Tommy's name, and she knows who it is, and then it's like he had just saved her from essentially either becoming infected or getting mauled by the infected.
They did that with purpose, though.
Well, of course, because you're supposed, I mean, and you're like, it shows the cycle. It just shows the cycle. But she was so, Of
Revenge.
course, he killed her father, who she
Yeah.
was close with. So it's you know, a never-ending cycle, which, I mean, it's very human. And I mean, we see that stuff in today's society. You know, we're human, and we are prone to error, and we are prone to anger, and anger is a lot easier to feel than hurt.
Yeah.
Anger is a lot easier to process than feeling pain, which I think this game does a really good job of that as well. But when he died, I didn't feel anything. But like as the game progresses, and especially in the last few scenes, it hurts. Like and it's supposed to. I would feel kind of almost. I would feel like I might have antisocial personality disorder if I didn't feel that way.
Well, I mean, you do eat string cheese without stringing it. So anyway, I think you answered that pretty well.
All right.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Did you mind playing as both Abby and Ellie?
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. I don't know how much battery my camera has. You can do like an hour and a half. Can you look down there in the corner? It'll tell you how long we've been recording.
33 minutes.
Oh, shit. Okay. All right. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you mind playing as both Abby and Ellie? Because I saw that was kind of part of what people complained about with this game.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I really love Ellie as a character. I still love Ellie as a character for all these people who say that she didn't experience any character development, because apparently the only way that you can experience character development is just becoming a wizened old, like, intelligent leader versus someone who is 19 years old who's only ever experienced
Pain.
violence and pain in her life,
Yeah.
just doing what she's seen she's witnessed other people doing, like, because a lot of people are saying that it wasn't in her character to like go and kill people, but she's been like murdering, like she's been killing people since she was like 14 or 15 years old.
That's all she knows in that world.
Yeah, I mean, it's all she knows. And then I mean, and not to mention the complex type of relationship that she had with Joel, and the fact that the night before he died, they were on the path of like, you know, kind of reconciling their relationship. And you know, I love her as a character. I relate to her a lot as a character, which we'll get to in a little bit. But so I never really wanted to not be playing as Ellie, but that's because I strongly kind of relate with the character.
Yeah.
My 19, 20-year-old self was kind of similar in a way.
Lost.
Yeah, well, and just and kind of like not really understanding any sort of emotional aspect of myself, and having a lot of anger and stuff like that. And I mean, a lot of people again just said that she didn't experience any sort of character development, or that her character, she would have never done any of these things. And I mean, she's 19 years old. She's witnessed hundreds of people dying. She has shot and killed and stabbed her way to Jackson. I mean.
So you always wanted to play as her, but you didn't mind playing as Abby.
I think Abby is a good character.
A good addition.
And I think people have a really, really difficult time separating their bias. Like, I'll always be biased to Ellie. I don't, you know, if they do make a Last of Us Part 3, she better be in there. I would have a really difficult time playing as just like Abby and Lev or whatever. I would like to see Ellie's story come to an end. But I think Abby is a good character. I like that she represents a very physically strong, cis, straight woman.
Yeah,
assuming she's straight. And her story is as important to me because her and Ellie have several parallels. Obviously not by mistake. They, you know, they both have, they both are in love with a specific person, who are both having children from other people.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that's interesting about Abby is, like, you know, Ellie got to end up somewhat with the person that she was in love with, and Abby didn't. And, you know, Abby kind of turns the corner before Ellie, but Abby was feeling all of these things way longer than Ellie was. So there's a lot of really nice contrasts and between the two of them, but a lot of like comparisons as well, like their fear of certain things. And so I think that they did a great job. The problem that I had with playing as Abby, though, again, besides the fact that I was incredibly biased and I love Ellie as a character, I'm probably going to get her tattooed somewhere on me. Like I think she is a fantastic character, and I loved Dina, and I loved Jesse. I loved pretty much all of the characters from Jackson. Tommy, I understand. Tommy kind of, I liked his character. I know a lot of people feel like it was kind of bizarre when he came back at the end. And
kind of what drug her away.
But I mean, I think if people understand what brain injuries and brain trauma does to people, that it's very likely that was what they were trying to portray. But the problem though with Abby is I think that her storyline was valid, but there are times though when I was playing her, especially kind of like the last couple missions that she does, where I'm just like, okay, I am over this.
Yeah, I remember you saying
like
that.
I have been playing this character for like 15 hours.
So you missed Ellie.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to Ellie, and God, and then they make you try to kill Ellie as her, which is
I watched that scene.
really, 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 I mean, difficult.
I think it was an important scene, but yeah.
Well, the scene where Ellie's trying to kill Abby is much more difficult to take.
Yeah.
But in the end, they both ended their own cycle, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of hope in the ending, even though we are kind of wanting to see the closure. We wanting to see Ellie get some closure, but
yeah, there
is some hope in the ending, and she kept her soul. I don't know. I just towards the end of Abby's playthrough, I was just
you're just exhausted.
I'm like, come on, And then there was like another scene where, her and Leave are in Santa Barbara, and they're just trying to find like the fireflies down there because they found that there's some living down there, and then like this new group of like a new gang just like came filler out of nowhere that and like.
Yeah.
Their whole purpose was just to kidnap Abby and then have Ellie infiltrate it to get to Abby, which, it's like they had a lot of weird practices. Like this gang had like runners and clickers tied up outside, and like there was no explanation as to why, besides I guess they're just, we're just supposed to feel like they're insane, and like people like tied up on pillars almost like they're being crucified somewhat, like, and it's like no explanation for any of it.
And that's probably where your 9.5 comes in.
Yeah, well, it's like they just kind of threw in this new faction that you're like, who the hell are these people? Like, I don't know any of them. I don't really care about any of them. Like, because I know some people like said as they were playing this game, it got to the point that they didn't want to kill anybody. But like, I don't like these people are like torturing individuals and like keeping infected as like pets. Yeah, that's like strange. It was just like, okay, I'm just gonna kill all of you and go get Abby. Like, I don't care.
Okay. I think you answered that pretty well. So I'm just trying to pick out some of the good questions.
You have time. There's an hour.
Want to try to do the other video?
Well, we can see. Let's finish this one.
Okay.
Go back to the other questions. I think we can answer them within an hour.
Okay. What was your favorite part of the game? Least favorite part of the game?
My favorite part of the game probably was the first day in Seattle, where Ellie and Dina were just kind of exploring, like, because it felt very
so cute.
Well, it was cute, but it was also normal. Like, everything was kind of normal. The grief of Joel's death hadn't really completely affected Ellie yet. She hadn't really done anything that she was sickened by, as she does as the days proceed, and you're kind of witnessing how strong of a partner Dina is and a support system is for Ellie, and you're seeing how they care about Tommy, that Tommy is part of Ellie's family as well, and then all the way up until really Jesse kind of comes in, and you see also how like strong the bond that Jesse has regardless with both Ellie and Dina, even though like he was Dina's ex and the father of Dina's child, but like you still see that they care about them. I loved all of that. I thought it was fantastic. And exploring through it, but like I think it was just so bright and vibrant, and there's an air of hope within all of this.
At the beginning,
as the days go on and it proceeds, you kind of slowly sink with Ellie down into. And I also like the scene kind of towards the end of the game where her and Dina are in a farmhouse, and you see kind of like the life that she could have if she wasn't struggling with something like PTSD. So my least favorite scene, okay, this is probably not anybody else's least favorite scene, because I actually think that most of the emotionally devastating parts, even though it was rough and it felt like you were just getting your heart torn out of your esophagus and like thrown on the ground and stomped
you
on.
gravitate towards those.
Yeah, I love the angst.
Well, and you think about them, and they're like more
the importance of them because they're
cerebral
important
for you.
Because people suffer.
Yeah.
That's just a part of humankind. Like you suffer, and so I think most of I think most of the suffering was not like
necessary.
Like because a lot of people are like Ellie would have never left the house that she started this family with. Well, I mean, have you ever experienced what PTSD is like?
Yeah.
You know, like, have you, and the only way that you feel like you can get rid of it is getting closure, and the only way that you can get closure is, you know, kind of ruining this other person's life. Like,
and you feel like you're a
she's not the same person that she was at the start of the game. Like, and she felt like her, I mean, she blacked out with the kid in her, with JJ in her arms, you know. I'm sure she was experiencing, the character was experiencing like a lot of guilt, and you know, she was upset too that she hadn't forgiven Joel fully before he died, so she didn't get any closure that way, and she was trying. I think that's what she was ultimately looking for. But
yeah, what was your least favorite part?
My least favorite part was that weird zombie thing in the basement of the hospital.
So mad.
Because I understand they were like, there's gonna be new infected in this, and that's fine, but that was the only part in the game, and it was like I'm not even sure what it was. It was like a ball of like infected that were like all alive within the, I guess, fungus ball.
I remember watching you do that. You were getting so mad.
Because it literally took me straight out of the game. Like I'm trying to find a first aid kit to get to this kid's sister so she doesn't develop gangrene in her arm and die.
I have to fight
and this stupid like that was only seen in this one part of the whole game. Because like most of the other bosses or semi like kind of bosses were like just regular people that you were fighting that like had a gigantic sledgehammer and you had like a little knife or something that, or just hands. But like, and then this stupid creature comes out of nowhere
and takes you right
and it's
out
like
of the
you
game.
kill it and then like a stalker or something like separates itself from its body and then it goes hides and then you have to kill that. And I'm like, this is like, just took me straight out of it. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I remember when you did that.
Yeah, it made me so mad.
So the next question is, and let's try to do a little bit of this, but I want to save a lot of this for the other video.
Yeah, that's fine.
But do you feel like they represented the LGBTQ community well, and what could they have done better?
So thankfully they didn't kill the gay characters off, which is kind of like a blessing for the LGBTQ community when like there are gay characters or trans characters. Or queer characters, and you know they die. I mean, I could name like so many media forms where that happens in, and so I'm kind of glad that both Ellie and Dina are able to at least survive up to this point, because it's really it's a really annoying trope that just brings angst for no reason, and it's unnecessary, and we need to portray these relationships as normal, because that's what they are. You know, there's no gay agenda. We're just normal people chilling. And
they showed a family, which I thought
it was cute. Yeah, they did. Like it was.
Time.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it wasn't the L word or anything like that, where it was just like over glorification of like everybody's gay and it's all like promiscuous and crazy. It was just, this kind of like simple life on this farmhouse. But I will say there's a little bit of controversy going around in regards to I won't name him because or
is
them.
It a YouTuber?
No, I won't name them because one of the actors in the game is trans, and they released their real name, if I'm understanding the controversy correctly.
Okay.
Instead of a moniker, so like there's a specific. Let me see your phone. You can just cut this part out.
Yeah, that's fine. Can you look at your? Who's the character? Who does he
Dead
play?
naming. They're calling it dead naming.
Oh, that's a dead name. Yeah. So, did he release his dead name?
No,
Someone else.
Did.
The game did.
Yeah. So the game released.
Okay, we'll go back in now.
The game released. From my understanding of it, because I briefly read about this because I've kind of avoided reading a lot of stuff about this game because some of it's just vile.
Yeah.
But apparently they released the name dead named a character or an actor that played a character in the game, and I don't know why they did that. I wish that they would not have done that.
Did they do that in the game?
I think so, in the end credits, if I'm understanding the story correctly.
Okay. Well, you can go and search that story yourself. If you don't know what a dead name is, it would be like if Casey were to transition to a male and her new name is like Ben, it would be like them referring to her as Casey. Casey would be a dead name.
Yeah, so I guess that's what happened. But I don't know if that was like an agreement. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Now, if
that's true, that could have been like a legal thing.
No clue.
Yeah.
I have no idea what. I don't know any of the details. I just know that is something, and if it's strictly true that they did that, like that just really regardless if it was intentional or unintentional or meant no harm, that stuff does cause harm.
Ignorance. That's the problem.
Yeah, and so I wish that kind of didn't happen.
But what about with End the Game? Is there anything you think they could have done better for the LGBTQ community? End the Game. If not,
no, I mean, they treated it pretty normal. I mean, like, of course there was like a scene where there's a little bit of homophobia, like, I mean, that it would exist, of course, because it does, but like, you know.
Oh, I remember that scene.
Yeah, Joel is pretty, like, everybody's pretty accepting and just treats it like normal. They're not like, oh, hey, lesbians. Like, it's just kind of treated as a relationship. Even her ex-boyfriend is like fine to a certain extent. I mean.
Yeah, and he's pretty accepting too.
Yeah, and even the conversations that they were having just seemed like normal. Like kind of like millennial or Zoomer type of conversations that would be taking place. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there could always be more representation, but I'm not the type of person that really enjoys things like the L word, where there is there's like only like there's like 20 lesbian couples and then one man. Yeah. Like and like maybe one like gender non-conforming or trans individual. Like I really dislike that. It's not realistic. There are no communities out there where every single person is like
part of the community.
Yeah, and I think that it actually does us a disservice because it separates the LGBTQ community away from society when we really just need to be integrated, and it needs to be normalized because it, you know, there's a lot of belief in deviancy and things like that don't need to be there. So when you witness a game like this and you see like this kind of one relation, and it just happens that the main character, which really fits it because I mean they started that trope in the DLC with the Left Behind DLC.
They did.
You know, so like we knew that Ellie is at least gay. Or at least bisexual. I mean, I think gay. I mean, there's something that she said to Jesse that would make me. I think that she's actually a lesbian character. But I mean, like, how many lesbian main characters are there? How many gay male characters are there? You know, how many trans characters are there? There's not. I mean, like, the only one I can think of, and perhaps I'm wrong, is Ellie in this game, and that's as a main fixture.
That's why representation in video games
matters. And plus they do it with gender as well with Abby. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I saw her and I was like, she's either trans
and that's
or
such
she's gay, and that's not okay.
No, and the thing is it's really cool because like you see her lift, Lev's sister,
she's just
Yara,
a masculine female.
Well, and she's taking care of like, so I thought that was cool. So no, I think it's important to just normalize these things and like, there doesn't need to be 85, you know, different types of sexualities or genders or something. I think that those things that I think to play out naturally and to kind of integrate within normal society, to be considered normal within society, that we need things that are just, hey, this is normal and it happens and here's the story and nobody's going to get mad. I mean, but you might get dyke screamed at you because, you know, that just happens, but it's not happening. Like, you know, there are people who also accept you. It's just, you know, showing the story. And I think it did a good job in that matter. Okay. I was mainly just happy that they didn't kill.
Yeah, because that's the
that's the thing, especially in like lesbian things.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about the review bombing.
Okay.
So before we actually got our hands on the game, you could see some of the reviews that were going up because our copy came 5 so late.
It made me so mad.
It was like 7.
I was like sitting on the couch staring at the door for like 12 hours.
Yeah. You wouldn't even do anything. But anyway, so we could see the review bombing before she even got her hands on the game. So, I mean, I already know how you feel about this, but why don't you tell the world what you think about review bombing, especially for in this game, because review bombing, this is not the first time this has ever happened, nor will it be the last.
I mean,
but this was a very specific kind of review bombing, I feel like.
For the people who are like rating it, I mean, because I read like, I don't even know how many, like because you know, I get on a thing and I just do it for like hours and hours and hours. So I was reading Metacritic reviews for hours and hours and hours, and I mean, like, I didn't have a problem with the people who were rating it like a 4 to a 6 or something because of how they felt, because you know, I understand that this type of story isn't for everyone. I understand that not everybody really enjoys the darker sides of humanity. I understand that people don't like to be uncomfortable emotionally, and I'm completely, well, it's like
that's why you played it and I didn't.
Andrea from What's Good Games, you know, like,
check them out.
I understand why you're feeling those things 100%. This game is not for everybody. It is not. It is an emotional roller coaster, and if those are, and if that is triggering, and I really mean that in the actual definition of the word, don't play it. But I get the rating, because then there are people who are signing a petition who want to restart the story, and not all of them are coming at it from a homophobic or
right, but that's still kind of annoying because it's not your story.
Well, and that's, you know, being a former lit student, you know, I enjoy stories, and I don't really I don't attach a plot to anything. I like to read other people's stories and I like to analyze them. Perhaps maybe that's why it's easier for me to do these things, because I don't get upset. I don't get upset mostly with sequels. The only sequel I've ever got upset about was like the third movie in the original Spider-Man, where he was like walking around like an emo boy, but it just looked so bad.
And
like,
didn't make any sense.
No, but
so you see the point in those reviews.
Well, because they're valid. I mean, and not everybody's gonna like everything. I mean, I hate The Witcher 3. I hate that game.
And that's a huge unpopular
I get
opinion.
so mad every time I watch like a video game list and it's like number 1, The Witcher 3, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like this game's like everywhere, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But then when you see the zeros and the ones like that, okay, on gameplay alone, gameplay, environment, and graphic design within the game,
10.
It easily, like, you cannot, this game, there's nothing that looks this detailed. No. Even down to in-game play facial features. Like, I mean, the characters are lively. They're having really animated conversations that you easily could see yourself having.
Absolutely.
Very personalized. The gameplay is smooth. The graphics are beautiful. And like, so you cannot rate the game a 0, period, just based off that. You can hate the story all you want, rate it a 5, whatever, but a lot of these zeros and ones are not coming from a place of, plus, first of all, this was up before anybody even finished the damn game. Like, the game wasn't even done, and people were like, they've had it for like 10 hours or something. They're like, this game's awful.
Well, because Joel died, and so
this game sucks. And like, and ooh, who's this like muscular, like, you know, nasty trans girl? She's supposed to be trans. Like, get your politics out of my video game.
Okay, so like, let's.
And I'm like, I'm not like, look, I love politics. I'm super obsessed with politics. I watch debates all the time. I love watching Nazis get destroyed. It's one of my favorite things.
Not political.
But it's not, being gay is not political. But I mean, we're in a society though where everything's a commodity. So, I mean, I guess everything turns into, you know, something, it get politicized. But, you know, 75% of those reviews were like, Naughty Dog, stop
doing your
politicsing. Yeah, like, oh, just another SJW, like, a girl can't, like, hold a gun. What is this? Like, come on. And that part was really annoying.
That's kind of it's kind of gotten swept under by positive reviews now, though, right?
No, I mean, like, if you go to Metacritic, it's, I think, still rated like a 4.6, and there's like, I think 59% of them are rated in between a 0 or a 1, and it's just dumb. It's so dumb, because that game is masterful just by level design.
And so people let their emotions and personal opinions.
Well, because obviously they're uncomfortable with it. They're uncomfortable playing a gay character. Well, you know what? I don't want to play a straight male character every time I play a video game.
Yeah. That's why you should check out.
And I mean, again, one of my most favorite
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with it if it fits what they're going for. That's the first game was about Joel. The first game was about Joel and love. The second game's about Ellie and hate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you don't like to play a female character that it doesn't want to screw a dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. Those people exist, and it's excellent that it's getting into the gaming industry, and it needs to happen more. There needs to be more people of color, and there needs to be more exploration of gender and sexuality, and those people need to live and be the protagonists of these games. That is the only way.
Well, and it really makes a difference.
Well, it makes a difference because first of all, it's inclusive. So if you are someone of color, if you are someone that is part of the LGBTQ community, you are able to see yourself represented on screen. And adversely, if you are not those things, you can see, empathize. It's one of I, as working formally as a tutor of English, and one of the professors that I worked under, she believed that reading was one of the best tools to create empathy within people because you could see inside their brain. And it's the same thing with video games. Like, these things can create a sense of empathy. You can feel empathy for Ellie. You can feel empathy for Dina when Ellie leaves Dina. You can feel empathy for Abby when you see her and how she's in a sunken state.
But these people who have problems, and again, there's going to be a full video about this. So if this is like something that really tickles your fancy, whether it's good or bad, we're going to try to get that up as soon as we can, because we have a lot more to say about this than just what we're doing here. But what happens is these people sit behind a screen, and instead of allowing themselves to learn and feel empathy for people, they're like, this doesn't happen. This isn't real. The only thing that's real is when a man and a woman, or, you know, two white cisgendered people get together, and that's the real story. This is all fake make-believe, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah, or like, it's fine if you're gay, but just don't don't throw it in my face. And it's like, okay,
doesn't make
so
sense.
And like, you guys, these are the same people who want like straight pride, and I'm like, but you don't understand that like all you're doing is being upset that something is not about you for once. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, and it's these same people who are criticizing the BLM movement right now and saying that like all these people are terrorists or creating social upheaval. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you can, I don't know how much longer that you can watch and witness people being murdered and not be upset about it, regardless if you understand what life that individual like leads. I'm a white woman. I don't understand the systematic racism. I somewhat understand systematic sexism, being a female, but I don't understand systematic racism. I cannot imagine what it's like coming from a society that has had a boot to their neck for the last like 400 years.
Well, one of the best ways to do that is to put yourself
but if we have
books or movies or video games,
so more representation,
or, I don't know, maybe talk to people, maybe like, I don't know, go up to someone that you know and be like, hey, can you tell me about your experience?
Well, yeah, but
before we get that far in society, if we just expose people to these things.
Well, I mean, because like, imagine like, I mean, not this game probably shouldn't be played by like a 5 or 6 year old, but like let's take like take a kids game, you know, take a kids game, you know, and like start showing that, because it's like people will be like, well, you're just trying to indoctrinate them and make them gay, even though that's like that's not how biology works. But okay.
Then don't play the game.
It would just, you know, because it needs to be normalized. All this stuff needs to be normalized. We cannot be in a society that is you can't be in a society that shows what reality is. And again, I'm not someone who wants to see every single person be
that's not reality.
No, you know, to be in the LGBTQ community. I mean, you need diversity and all of that. And it's the same thing as I identify as a feminist, but I was raised by 2 strong males who made me a feminist. Both my grandfather and my dad. Like, I don't hate men. I actually think very highly of men because I was raised by very strong men. Yeah. But I mean,
so that's an issue with this game, though.
Review bombing. The thing is I think that if it wasn't as big of if it wouldn't have happened had this been something that was a smaller like thing. But this is like the most anticipated game within
that's
the,
a good point.
The last several years.
And they want it to be what they envisioned for the
Well, they wanted to go as Joel and probably like occasionally play as Ellie and then like kind of have whatever like action filled. I don't know. I mean, I know that a lot of people are upset about the story, and again, that's completely valid. And people being destroyed emotionally, that's completely valid. But if I would like have to read one more thing that's like SJW, I'm like, it's not SJW to just be gay. Like, that's not SJW. Like, if Naughty Dog was like just almost like, you know, just inserting every like diverse trope that they could possibly think of to pander to like everyone, then I guess you could say that, but that's not what's happening. No. Also, I don't know that I would even have a problem with that, but whatever.
So I think, I mean, that's a good, just if you're watching this, I'm assuming you've already played the game. I would like to know below whether you agree or disagree, because we're always welcome to listening to what other people have to say about their perspective of the game. Do you think is there something you want to leave these fine folks with about your experience in the game? Just play it.
I
If
mean,
you haven't for some reason.
I go back to what I said earlier. Playing
Yeah.
games like this, reading material that is similar to this, creates the ability to empathize with individuals that you might not have been able to do before. It gives a window into a different life, and it's a great story. If you are able to emotionally play this game, I do it. It's an incredible game. It hurts. I even almost cried, and I don't cry very much. So.
But if you have played this game, then and you didn't see a perspective that we just talked about, maybe like rethink about your experience in the game and some of the things that we've
or like
talked
how
about here.
how you wanted the story to be. You know, I mean, because again, like this is all subjective. Like that's the thing. Like my take on this is my take, and I don't expect anybody else to have it. And I think all of us will walk away with something a little bit different, whether it's good or bad from it. And also, like, something that's good can be bad. I mean, something that's good for me might be bad for someone else. And I 100% understand. Yeah, you would be, like, in a ball.
And I think that's okay. Like, if you're someone like me who can't, I mean, I, for several reasons at this point in my life, cannot handle a game like that.
No. Yeah.
And I won't play it. That's why she's here doing
Well,
this
yeah,
right now.
and
She can play it.
my favorite review is, like, I just finished the ending of this game. I just want to curl up in a ball and think. And that's, like, essentially where I came to.
Yeah, and the last thing, I'll just, like, bring it back full circle. I mean, you've put some great things in the words, but when Christine Steimer said it's not a game about a fungus, it's a game about humanity, I think that should be on the front of, like, all...
Oh, yeah. It's incredibly human. It's as human as a video game probably has ever mastered. I mean, even down to just dialect and conversation and... but emotionally, too. I mean, it is. Play it. Just play it. If you won't get triggered, play it. That's all I can say.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think this is going to wrap it up. I have no idea how long this has been going, but we're going to try to film...
An hour and 4 minutes.
Nice. Your screen time probably won't be that.
Yeah, cut it out.
Probably pretty
just
close
cut it
to
out,
that,
though. Blur my face.
No.
Give me a
she
voice
wants to wear a
changer.
paper bag, but I won't let her.
Yeah, I don't like this.
She's too pretty. Anyway, so I think if my camera battery has enough time, we might just try to do that right now, especially while we're in the mood. So you can probably catch that later as well, the representation video. But as always, thank you guys so much for being here. I am running a giveaway right now. If you subscribe, like this video or any other video, and comment on one of them, you'll be entered for the giveaway when I get to 150 subscribers. That's something that's really important to us, is to do giveaways. I've done them on Twitch, blah, blah, blah. So as always, like, I really appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you next time.